Chapter 12. An elderly woman with a simple brown dress sat at the desk of the library. She greeted Lucas with a smile as she saw him open the door and step in, but her smile quickly faded when Lizard scurried in behind him and Row 82 followed. Lizard's height was intimidating to anyone, but even through the fuzzy vision that her bifocals afforded her, he seemed unnatural. Row 82's neck augmentations were definitely unnatural, and though she had read many books on various scientific pursuits, she had never seen anything physically attached to a human being before. Lucas strolled up to the desk and gave a smile. She could tell that they had traveled a considerable distance from the dust caked in the seams of his coat and the straps on his backpack. She did not detect any weariness in him, and he appeared to be well fed, which put her mind at ease a bit, even considering the company he kept. "I was wondering if you could help me," said Lucas in a cheerful voice. The elderly woman forced a smile. "Of course, dear," she said. "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for records involving the divine keys," said Lucas. She looked up at Lizard uncomfortably as his head darted around. She then looked over to Row 82, who stared at her, maintaining perfect eye contact and making her feel extremely uncomfortable. She folded her arms. We, she stuttered. "Can you be more specific?" she said at last. "Yes," said Lucas. "We would specifically like to find any information documenting their origin and purpose." Their purpose has been to help humanity," stammered the librarian in a confused tone. Lucas smiled calmly. "And their origin?" asked Lucas. "Do you have any resources documenting the place from which they came, or the identity of their creator?" Lizard scurried back toward the door and began looking at the hinges. The librarian looked at him in surprise before turning back to Lucas. "I'm sorry, dear," said the librarian. "I don't believe we do." "That's a lie," hissed Row 82. The librarian stumbled backwards and caught her balance on a stool. What? Stammered the frightened librarian. Row 82 gave a blood-curdling shriek. The others covered their ears and gave angry looks to Row 82. "Was that really necessary?" asked Lizard with air quotes. "No, it wasn't," said Lucas with a frown. "It confirmed that no one else is present," said Row 82. "The records you seek are on the 3rd floor. The librarian's face went pale. "Who are you?" she asked in a trembling voice. "I apologize for my friend. Our interest in the divine keys is because we ourselves are key bearers." Lucas pulled the chain holding his mirrored key out from under his shirt and showed it to her. She gasped. "I thought," she started. "You thought the council had disbanded," said Row 82. "It had. We don't have time for this." "Be courteous," said Lucas in a reprimanding tone. He turned back to the librarian. "I can see how this might be unsettling," he said. "Please do not feel compelled to contact police officers, though. There is a clear explanation for everything." "2 strange men and a boy come into my library demanding information on divine keys," said the woman as she trembled. "And only a few days after that other woman came asking for the same thing. Who are you?" "The easiest way to say this is that we are, in fact, a part of a council from 1,000 years in the future," said Lucas. The librarian looked at Lizard as he scurried up to the desk again. Sweat beaded on her head, and a moment later she slumped down onto the floor. "Are you okay?" asked Lucas. "She'll be fine," said Row 82. "Her pulse and breathing are still functioning, and she will regain consciousness within the hour." Lucas sighed. "All right," he said at last. The 3 of them headed up a flight of stairs toward the 3rd floor. Row 82 walked right toward a dusty shelf in the back. There were hundreds of books in the library, and it seemed that this entire floor was dedicated to historical records. Lucas gently touched his key, and in a moment he became aware of hundreds of documents. There were old journals and building plans. There were formal publications and loosely bound notes. There were beautiful leather-bound books and tubes that contained ancient scrolls. He could see how each item was carefully labeled and catalogued. Finally, he watched as Molly Patterson placed a volume in the very place to which Row 82 had been headed. His vision vanished as Row 82 pulled the book from the shelf. "How did you know this was the right book?" asked Lucas. Row 82 pointed at his key. Lucas shook his head. "No, your key certainly gives you perception, but not at this level," said Lucas. Row 82 shifted uncomfortably as Lizard scurried beside Lucas and waited for the augment's response. "You were quite perceptive yourself," said Row 82. "I was told about this library and this book, and I was persuaded that bringing you and Lizard would be a good idea." "By whom?" demanded Lucas. It was clear that he did not like being kept in the dark or manipulated, and that he felt Row 82 was attempting to do both. "Michael," said Row 82. Lucas looked at him skeptically. Lizard looked back and forth between Lucas and Row 82, as though he was trying to decide who would prevail in an inevitable conflict. Lucas rubbed his forehead. Row 82 flexed the metal plates around his ears in frustration because he did not understand Lucas's hesitation. Lizard frowned because he knew that there would be no fight. "You believe me, but you are disappointed," said Row 82 in a confused tone. "Why is that?" "Michael is never straightforward," said Lucas. "It's always riddles. What did he tell you?" "He told me that Molly Patterson had uncovered the secrets behind the divine keys," said Row 82. Lizard's eyes widened. "So there is a source of their power?" asked Lizard. "There must be," said Row 82. "There is no free energy. It is never created or destroyed, only changed, or more appropriately, harnessed. And the energy of that power was so impressive that it drove her mad," asked Lucas cautiously. "A person that had actively participated in hunting demon worshippers and witnessed the horrors of human sacrifice that they perpetrate was so shocked and unprepared for the source of power in the divine keys that she went mad? Something does not add up." "Don't you have the key of origins, Lucas?" asked Lizard. "Can't you find out what it was?" "Maybe," said Lucas, "but really, it is not smart to jump into something that may be responsible for driving a divine key-bearer insane." Lizard raised his eyebrows and nodded. "I guess that sounds right," he said with air quotes. "So what all did Michael tell you?" asked Lucas as he turned to Row 82. "He said that we need to find out what happened to Molly Patterson," said Row 82. "He said that the time was coming, that we would need to choose whether to do the task for which we were chosen or lose our power." "And that's why you started questioning the source of their power," said Lucas. "Yes," said Row 82. "That and the desire to see if the source of power has other applications. Imagine crafting permanent keys." "I don't exactly know the limits of an archangel's capabilities," said Lucas, "but I have a feeling that forging the divine keys pushed those limits." "Still," said Row 82, "the chance to learn the origins and purposes of these keys, it is exactly what you have wanted since you first learned about their existence." "I won't deny that," said Lucas. "So Michael obviously also told you about this place and about that book." "Yes," confessed Row 82, "but that is the extent of what I was given. He said there would be more clues in the book." "Did he?" asked Lucas. Row 82 opened the hardcover and reviewed the pages. His eyes began glowing brightly as he searched for some sign of Molly Patterson's knowledge in the pages. About 2/3 of the way through, he came across a diagram that made him stop. He tilted his head and squinted his eyes to examine it from another angle. After a moment, his eyes widened. "I know this place," whispered Row 82. He handed the book to Lucas. Lucas recognized that the diagram represented the layout of a structure. He immediately recognized the structure. "It's larger here," said Lucas. "Larger than it will be." "Yes," said Row 82. Lizard scurried up behind them. "What is it?" he asked as he looked over Lucas's shoulder to catch a glimpse. "It is the shrine in which the key of origins was hidden, and Epsilon 41 ran his slaving operation," said Lucas. Lizard's eyes widened. "From here, that's more than 300 miles away," said Row 82 in a frustrated tone. "Lizard could get there immediately, but for us, it will take days in a time that has yet to develop automobiles. There aren't even train tracks that would put us there." There was a pause as Lucas looked around the room. Suddenly he smiled as his eye caught an unlit kerosene lamp on the wall. "Wait," he shouted. He turned and grabbed his key. His eyes began glowing. Row 82 flexed the plates around his ears impatiently as they watched Lucas turn in slow circles and look around beyond the constraints of the library wall. "But we aren't thieves," he muttered as he kept looking around. "What are you doing?" asked Lizard. Lucas stopped turning and his eyes stopped glowing. "I've got an idea," he said. "It will take a couple of days to set up, but that's better than the weeks it would take to get there on foot." "What's your idea?" asked Row 82. Lucas grabbed a piece of paper on a nearby table and scribbled out a list of items. "I need these things," said Lucas as he handed it to Row 82. "Okay, assuming that I can get that much steel and the use of a blacksmith shop, what am I making?" asked Row 82 in a confused tone. "Several canisters that can withstand high amounts of pressure," said Lucas. "Okay, how are we not thieves if we get this stuff?" asked Lizard as he snatched the list away from Row 82 and examined it. "We don't exactly have money." "We can do better than money," said Lucas with a smile. "There is a large vein of gold in the hill just out there. We're going to mine it." "This is more complicated than rigging a radio to mess with my density perception," said Row 82, which I admit was quite impressive. "But still, I can tell you want canisters to house some kind of explosive fuel." "True," said Lucas. "You're trying to make some kind of rocket to blast us there?" asked Row 82. "Yes," said Lucas. Row 82 took a deep breath and put his head in his hand. "So let me get this straight," he said. "You want to strap the two of us into some kind of rocket and blast us hundreds of miles and just hope that we survive when we slam into the ground there?" "Not the ground," said Lucas. "There was a large frozen lake at the edge of the shrine." "Yes, but," said Row 82, "you're wanting to use technology that has not been invented yet and hope that we can hit a lake hundreds of miles away. Even if you guide us as we are in the air, there is no equipment to really slow us down, and if you're off even by a little, we will be nothing but a stain on the rocks and trees out there." "Oh, you don't have to worry about guiding the rocket in flight," said Lucas with a smile. "The force of the launch and the high altitude will probably cause us to lose consciousness shortly after liftoff." "You're insane," said Row 82. "Can you really do that?" asked Lizard. "Will that work?" "We need your help to pry us out of the rocket when we land in the lake," said Lucas. "But other than that, I think this is the best way to figure out answers quickly. We'll just take the time we need and travel there in a method that allows us to survive," said Row 82. "There are no answers to uncover for the dead." "It will work," said Lucas confidently. Row 82 turned and looked at Lucas. He grabbed his key and looked into the boy's eyes. "Say it again," he said. "It will work," said Lucas. After a long moment looking at Lucas, the glow in Row 82's eyes ceased. "All right," he said. "This is insane, but you really believe it will work. And I believe we need to find out sooner than later." Lizard laughed. "I'm not going to lie," said Lizard. "I really want to see you build a rocket using 1,000-year-old tech. Lucas smiled. He felt confident. He had every reason to feel confident. He knew exactly how to get what they needed, and he knew how to put them together. What might have seemed like a ridiculously risky maneuver without the benefit of the Key of Origins became a manifestation of his resourcefulness. He only wished that Stephanie Mason was there to appreciate his genius. Of course, the real negative consequence of Stephanie's absence was not that she would miss Lucas's feat of engineering. It was that she could have foreseen the danger that none of the others could in the lake near the shrine. She would have seen Felix Light and his acolytes scurrying all over the area to which they were headed.